DDSB bringing the Great Bear back to their library shelves. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Durham. The Durham District School Board, DDSB, has decided to return the book The Great Bear to their library shelves following pushback from the community regarding their decision to remove it. Following the original decision to remove it, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation expressed their disappointment with the decision. Our council was disappointed to learn about the DDSB deciding to remove literature by an Indigenous author from its libraries. We share in some of the concerns raised on social media. However, we appreciate the need for all families to be able to raise concerns about school curriculum and materials. We trust the board will reconsider its decision, recognizing the value of presenting the anonymous concerns which were brought forward about the book. We, too, look forward to learning of these concerns once we commence engagement with the DDSB officials. A statement from Chief Kelly LaRocca, posted on Saturday, April 23rd, read, "The board announced the decision to bring this book and the 2 other Forest of Reading books from their library collection back in a press release issued on Wednesday, April 27th. An accelerated review process allowed us to engage in conversations with some members of the local Indigenous community. Those discussions have placed the focus on the importance of making books by Indigenous authors available to students, particularly Indigenous students, based on providing choice. In response to this feedback, we will be returning the books to library circulation," the board's press release explained. In the release, the board stated they initially removed the book from circulation following concerns from Indigenous families that were brought forward, related to Indigenous stereotypes and terminology which could perpetuate discrimination. The board then decided to do a review to see if the book should remain on the shelves of their schools. We recognize the Indigenous families who came forward did so with the intent to ensure we meet their children's needs. We also understand, for many families, the importance of accessing books which reflect Indigenous lived realities is critically important. In the coming weeks, we will engage in a more fulsome consultation with treaty partners, the DDSB Indigenous Advisory Circle, Indigenous staff, and Indigenous families on how to best manage different responses to literature and ensure we serve the needs of Indigenous families, the board release explained. The Great Bear is written by David Robertson. We deeply respect the work of David A. Robertson, along with those who decide to become authors to inspire children and youth. We have offered to meet with the authors to engage in further discussion, DDSB officials wrote.
Port Perry Mojacks to become Port Perry Lumberjacks after sponsor change. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Scugog. Port Perry's Junior C hockey team will be heading into next season with a new name and new look. At a press conference at the Scugog Community Recreation Center on Thursday, April 28th, Murray Parliament announced the Port Perry Mojacks will become the Port Perry Lumberjacks. This name change follows a change in sponsorship, with Lake Scugog Lumber becoming the team's new sponsor. At the conference, Mr. Parliament explained the team had to search for a new corporate sponsor after the Jackson family, who previously owned Mother Jackson's in Port Perry, decided they could no longer be the team's sponsor. Life as we know it has changes we can't control sometimes, changes which are necessary, changes which are just part of life. A year ago, Dave Jackson talked to me and told us they were going to discontinue the family sponsorship, and we should look for a new sponsor to take over from the 50-year contribution they made to the community of Port Perry, our hockey club, and our executive, he said. The Mojacks name was short for Mother Jackson's. We knew eventually the Jackson family sponsorship would come to an end, and we would have to start again, Mr. Parliament said. But in just a short conversation with members of the Griffin family, who own Lake Scugog Lumber, the team knew they had found their next sponsor. It was probably a 2 or 3 minute conversation, and it was obvious in my conversation with this gentleman they were really interested in taking over the corporate sponsorship. So, the next day, after that conversation, we set up a meeting, which took place in our dressing room, a meeting which maybe lasted 20-25 minutes. During that conversation, it was obvious to me the 90-year-old business had a tremendous amount of respect for the Jackson family, Mr. Parliament explained. That gives you a good feeling you're heading in the right direction. Ian Griffin explained to the Standard the most important part of this transaction was keeping the tradition of junior hockey going in Port Perry. That was huge for us. When our business has been around for 90 years and the Mojacks for 50, it was an easy decision, he said. It means a lot for the community, and the community means a lot to me. playing an audio clip of a chainsaw starting up. The team then announced they would be called the Lumberjacks, and a new logo and jersey design were unveiled, still maintaining the same color scheme though. He liked the team colors, and he felt it was important we retain those colors, Mr. Parliament said. One of the things he did emphasize, though, is we've got to get back on the winning track. Mr. Griffin explained the thought process behind the name change. I thought if we could carry on the Jacks name and change it to Lumberjacks, it would flow well, and it would still remember the Jackson family for 50 years of contributions, and it would work for my scheme as well. Mojack's general manager Tom Parrish told the Standard. He is excited about the new brand. It's a new beginning, new sponsorship, new excitement, and I got a pretty hefty task to try to make a winner. As you can tell from the new sponsorship, they really want to win. Hard work has already begun, and it's going to keep going until we put a contender on the ice, he said. However, the work could get a little bit easier for the team following this rebranding. Everything will be brand new. The kids are excited. The community's excited. It will be like injecting new life into the franchise, Mr. Parrish stated.
Kerstin Kelly to stand as the Ontario Party candidate. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. There will be a new political party on the ballot when Kawartha Lakes residents vote in the provincial election. Kerstin Kelly has been named the Haliburton-Kawartha Lakes Brock candidate for the Ontario Party. Ms. Kelly grew up on a farm near Bobcaygeon, in Verulam Township. She represented Canada as part of the Canadian Junior International Equestrian Team in competitions in Cuba and Mexico. Ms. Kelly has practiced veterinary medicine in Sutton, Beaverton, and in Lindsay before establishing her own clinic in Bobcaygeon. She expanded to Fenland Animal Clinic in 1995 and Victoria Veterinary Services in 2007, employing over 20 staff members. Retiring veterinary emeritus in February 2020, Kerstin Kelly enjoys spending time on her farm in Oakwood with her family, dogs and cat, tending to her garden, chickens and horses, and traveling in her own aerobatic Citabria airplane. On warm, sunny days, you may also catch her out on a motorcycle tour, exploring the roads of Haliburton with the Skyhogs and her husband of 34 years and her eldest daughter, her candidate website explains. The Ontario Party is led by Derek Sloan. In their charter, it explains they believe balanced budgets are the most responsible fiscal policy, and they believe in the presumption of innocence, the right to justice and a fair trial without undue delay, regardless of economic circumstances, social standing, ethnic, cultural, or ideological affiliation or biological trait. Their website states the party will use all means at its disposal to ensure no Ontario citizen can be compelled to commit an act or communicate an idea which directly contradicts their sincerely held religious beliefs or moral convictions deemed legal under the Criminal Code and protected by the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. The three pillars of the party, as explained on the website, are freedom, family, and faith. Scugog Chamber seeking funds to help stabilize after COVID-19 pandemic. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Scugog. Scugog councillors heard some sobering news about the future of the Scugog Chamber of Commerce at a recent meeting. If we're not successful at getting township funding, we will have to re-look at the Chamber's involvement and organization in Scugog. We have cut our costs down in the last 2 years to keep our head above water. But we're not prepared to work under a situation where we cannot be successful and self-supporting, Terry Voss told members of Scugog Council. I've tried other avenues. We will continue trying many, many more avenues. But if we're not successful, the possibility we could have to close our doors does exist. We are not going to spend money we don't have. At the meeting, Terry Voss and Michael Phillip requested a $6,500 grant from the township for the chamber to be able to bring back many of their regular events, as well as a loan of $31,000 to help with economic growth. Like many businesses in the township during the pandemic, the chamber was not immune to the effects of the pandemic. Membership remained relatively stable, but we did see the loss of some businesses who were unable to survive the pandemic financially. It should be noted the membership dues only account for 30% of our operating budget, explained Mr. Phillip. Mr. Phillip stated, because of events being cancelled due to the pandemic and some temporary declines in membership, the chamber saw a significant decline in revenue. He added the chamber did not qualify for many government financial supports during the pandemic, which local businesses received. While we were successful in wage and rent subsidies in the last 2 years, we no longer qualify in 2022, he said. Councilors later voted to refer the request to township staff for them to craft a report.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.